The journey to the Wraithwood was fraught with danger. Dark forests, treacherous terrain, and hostile creatures stood between the vampire trio and their destination. Despite their dire situation, the resolve of Peter, Anastasia, and Adrian did not waver. The fate of Veilcrest rested on their shoulders. As they made their way through the dense forest, they could not shake off the feeling of being watched. They were in unknown territory, and their vampire instincts were on high alert. An ambush from a pack of dire wolves tested their strength and unity, but they managed to fend off the beasts. Finally, they reached the heart of the Wraithwood. Anastasia, stepping forward, called out to the witches, hoping their need would sway them. The response was not immediate, the silent woods around them playing with their anxieties. Suddenly, a group of witches, their faces hidden beneath cloaks, emerged from the coven. Their leader, an elderly witch with piercing eyes, listened as Anastasia explained their situation. Their request was met with skepticism. The witches and vampires had a long history of conflict, and the idea of aiding vampires did not sit well with them. However, the threat that Victor posed was not just to the vampires but to all creatures of the night. After much deliberation, the witches agreed to assist, but not without a price. The vampires would owe them a debt, a favor to be claimed at any time. With no other choice, Peter, Anastasia, and Adrian agreed to the terms. The witches revealed that the Sanguine Orb's power had one weakness, the Elixir of Life, a potion brewed from rare and ancient ingredients. However, the elixir was not easy to obtain, and the last ingredient, the heart of a banshee, was exceptionally challenging to procure. With a new sense of purpose and a glimmer of hope, the trio set off once more. Their journey was far from over, and Victor was growing stronger with each passing day. As they ventured deeper into the Wraithwood, they knew that they were stepping into even greater danger. Unbeknownst to them, back in Veilcrest, Victor had found their sanctuary. The remaining rebel vampires prepared for the inevitable attack, their survival hanging by a thread. The battle for Veilcrest was on the horizon, and the outcome was more uncertain than ever. The heart of the Wraithwood held dangers the likes of which Peter, Anastasia, and Adrian had never faced before. Banshees were notorious for their lethal screams and intangible bodies, making them almost impossible to defeat. As they ventured deeper into the woods, the eerie cries of the banshees filled the air. Their ethereal figures moved like shadows amongst the trees, their faces frozen in an eternal scream of sorrow. The vampire trio, standing back to back, prepared for the fight of their lives. The first banshee attack was sudden and terrifying. Anastasia, quick on her feet, managed to counter the scream with a powerful sonic attack of her own. Adrian used his speed to dodge and distract the banshees, while Peter focused on capturing one. The fight was brutal and exhausting. The banshees' mournful screams echoed in their ears, causing disorientation and pain. After what felt like hours, Peter finally managed to capture a banshee in a magical containment charm given to them by the witches. With the heart of a banshee secured, they made their way back to the witches' coven. The witches, seeing their success, prepared the Elixir of Life. It was a sight to behold, ancient magic and rare ingredients combining to create a potion powerful enough to counter the Sanguine Orb's power. As they journeyed back to Veilcrest, they were burdened by the knowledge of the favor they owed the witches. It was a debt that could lead to dire consequences. But there was no time to worry about the future. Veilcrest was in immediate danger. Upon their return, they found Veilcrest under siege. Victor, with his army of undead, had launched an attack on the city. The rebel vampires fought bravely, but they were vastly outnumbered. The city was on the brink of falling into Victor's hands. Peter, Anastasia, and Adrian, fueled by desperation and the need to protect their kind, plunged into the battle. With the Elixir of Life in their possession, they had a fighting chance against Victor. The battle was fierce, and many lives were lost. As they pushed through the army of undead, they finally reached Victor. The confrontation was inevitable, and as they faced the original vampire, they knew that this could be the end, for them or for Victor. The battlefield was a grim spectacle of fallen vampires and undead, a stark reminder of the danger they faced. But despite their fear and apprehension, they held the Elixir of Life tightly, their final weapon against the original vampire. Victor stood tall, the sanguine orb's power pulsating around him. The trio could feel its overwhelming energy, a raw force that threatened to consume them. But they stood their ground, ready to fight to the end. Their determination, their unyielding resolve, shone in their eyes. With a swift movement, Victor charged at them. Peter and Adrian moved to hold him off, their fierce attacks designed to distract and weaken him. Meanwhile, Anastasia positioned herself strategically, waiting for the right moment to use the Elixir of Life. The battle was intense, the air crackling with power and echoing with the sound of fierce clashes. Peter and Adrian fought bravely, their moves a seamless coordination of attacks and deflections. Yet, Victor was formidable, his strength seemingly unaffected by their onslaught. Suddenly, Victor managed to land a powerful blow on Peter, sending him flying back. Adrian quickly stepped in, his attacks growing more desperate. But Victor seemed to be growing stronger, feeding off the energy of the conflict. Anastasia, seeing Peter in danger, knew it was now or never. She sprinted towards Victor, the Elixir of Life in her hand. Victor, noticing her too late, turned just as she threw the elixir onto him. The effect was instantaneous. Victor let out a gut-wrenching scream as the power of the sanguine orb started to diminish. His form began to convulse, his screams echoing across the battlefield. Anastasia retreated, her heart pounding as she watched Victor writhe in pain. Slowly, Victor's form began to crumble, his power dissipating into the air. His once formidable figure started to disintegrate, his screams growing weaker. Until, finally, with one last scream, he collapsed onto the ground, his form dissolving into dust. A silence fell upon the battlefield, the remaining undead disintegrating without Victor's power to sustain them. The vampires, stunned by the sudden turn of events, watched as the threat that had once loomed over them disappeared. Victory came with a heavy price, and as the vampires nursed their wounds and mourned their fallen, they knew their fight wasn't over. The pact with the witches hung like a shadow over their celebration, a reminder of the debt they owed. The future was uncertain, and they knew that a new challenge awaited them.